Pete Long and his Goodmen. You're very welcome to the studio. They're about to recreate an iconic moment in musical history. Carnegie Hall, New York, 1938. Believe it or not, that's when Benny Goodman assembled the first jazz concert of black and white musicians together. Here we go, gentlemen. China Boy. Woo! Thank you very much indeed. Oh, that got the energy level up. Thank you very much indeed, and the sugar level up. That was Pete Long and his Goodmen. Pete Long on clarinet, Benny Thompson on piano, Richard Pite on drums, and they're recreating the 1938 Benny Goodman concert at Carnegie Hall in New York. Is it true? Is that really the first time, do you think, that black and white musicians played together or jazz in a jazz concert?
It's certainly the first time it happened to any degree of publicity. Goodman at the time was the leading pop star on the planet. It's often forgotten because now we view him as a historical figure. But at the time, he had the clout of the Beatles or something. And he was all about the music, Benny. Didn't care who was playing it as long as it sounded great. And he assembled for segments of his concert lineups of racially integrated musicians. And because he was Benny Goodman, it was tolerated. And he opened the floodgates for proper understanding, playing and listening of music since.
Yes, I mean he was probably the only one who could have done it at that time. Someone so what was the music? Was it all this? Was it this sort of absolute 30s music that went through the whole night, Richard?
What? No, actually, funnily enough, it wasn't entirely, because around about 3 or 4 numbers in, they decided to do a 20-year history of jazz in 1938.
indeed, yes.
It had about 20 years of the stuff, starting with the original Dixieland Jazz Band in the days of the First World War around 1917, and then they moved up through the years, and then, of course, finished off with the Benny Goodman Band's latest hit. But the rest of the time, what they were doing, they were mixing up their trio and quartet, and famously with Lionel Hampton on vibes joining the trio, and then the big band, which is 14, 15, something like that.
Quite a
14 or
small
15
big band
musicians.
by modern
Yeah, have
standards.
you got a big band then for the
We
Cadogan
have
Hall
a big
gig?
band, a beautiful big acoustic band playing period instruments, and exactly the same way as Goodman did it. There's no amplification of the bass or piano, as can often happen with a big band now. There's no amplification of the guitar. Originally, the singer sang without amplification, but Miss Viscant, our singer, will be using a magic talking stick.
Oh gosh, have they got those?
They have them, yes. We have to fill in the form, but
I
they do.
I never thought they'd catch on.
Yeah, microphone at the Cadogan Hall. Shock horror.
But the good thing about the Cadogan Hall acoustics is it's perfect for what we're doing.
It is.
It
It's
just
absolutely-
gives
yes,
the
that's
right
absolutely
amount
right,
of
yes.
resonance.
Yes,
for
you
the
have to.
music.
But the first time I went to the Cadogan Hall, I approached with a degree of reverence because there had been a Christian Science church. I think,
That's right. It
That's
was.
right,
Yes,
in its previous
indeed.
incarnation. Yeah, but
Yes.
it embraces the either audience or congregation. Call it what you will.
Yes, it does. It is.
You'll have a congregation, I think.
I think we will, yes. And
Yes, and it might be a little bit up on its feet and going crazy in a sort of evangelical way.
yes,
towards the
yes,
end.
we do try and encourage people to stand up and dance in the aisles and in front of their seats, as they did at Carnegie Hall. The music was conceived as dance music. Mm-hmm.
Hard to keep your feet still.
Yes.
Well, that's the thing, and you experience it in the spirit in which it was composed. If you move around a bit to it as well, it makes it a more three-dimensional
And of
experience
course,
for everyone.
over 90s are excused. And
Yes,
that's a
they
very
are.
important point
Yes.
because in the broadcast, in the concert we did last year, we had a gentleman who was present at the 1938 concert as a 15-year-old and came back to see us when he was 90. And I hope he's coming back this year too.
I hope so. Tell them to move gently. It's fine. I think it's a good thing to keep going.
Oh, it is, yes.
Yeah,
Very good,
I
very
mean,
good.
aisles should not be prohibited to those whose decades are rolling on.
Yes, well, indeed.
I was a bit worried about the balcony when you got everybody up last year, though. I mean, it doesn't look the strongest balcony, but fortunately there was no Apollo Theatre type event.
No.
It stayed intact. We were pleased to say.
Good. Well, you I'm sure you'll bring the house down, but in a conceptual sort of way.
Yes.
Listen, guys, thank you very much indeed.
for
Bunny's
having us.
sitting very quietly at the piano, sort of communing with his
He's
keyboard.
asleep, I think.
No, he's all right. He's got his
Oh,
shoes
okay.
on. I noticed you two have both taken your shoes off. I particularly admire the socks. You obviously go to the same shop. One's
Yes.
got green flashings and one's got orange flashings.
Well, yes, you see, that's to denote different days of the week,
Yeah.
so it just shows how poorly aligned we are.
It's very good. It means they're clean. Thank
Yes.
you. There was a little bit of tinkling of the ivories going on from Bunny Thompson, part of the Pete Long and his Goodmen. And Pete was just reminding me that, in fact, there's a good jazz version of that, isn't there?
The entire Nutcracker Suite was recorded in 1958, I think, by Duke Ellington and his orchestra.
Very good. Can you give me a month for an extra point?
November.
Probably right. Well, you and your good men are back. There are going to be a lot more of you at the Cadogan Hall.
Many
for
more,
the
yes.
For the big gig. It's afternoon, isn't it? We should just remind everybody.
It's an afternoon show. I believe we start at 3, don't we?
Start at
3:30.
3:30. If you're there at 3, you'll be in plenty of time.
Yes.
It's this coming weekend.
Yes,
Yeah.
very exciting, yes.
And we should say that apparently it's almost jammed, so you may have to dance in the aisles, but the Cadogan Hall are putting in extra seats.
They have put in extra
seats.
Yes.
Listen, more of that ain't on, but you're going to play for us now. Three of his finest are here in the studio. He's just trying to keep them in order. That's Pete and Bunny Thompson and Richard Pite on drums, and
Yes.
it's going to be Body and Soul, isn't
Body
it?
and Soul, the first thing that Benny ever recorded
Yeah.
with his trio.
There you are. You are giving us your all. Thank you. Lovely. Thank you very much indeed, Pete Long and his good men. His good men are to Bunny Thompson and Richard Pite. Bunny, we should have asked you if you're a Sugar Plum Fairy. Apparently you can do a nice Sugar Plum Fairy, can you? Give us a bar or two. Go on. Some other time. All right. Okay. We'll book you. We'll book you when we're doing it. Gentlemen, come back. You're going to play something else in a moment. But I just wanted to... What was the reaction to this great 1938 extravaganza that you're recreating? Benny Goodman, of course, having the first time, as it were, a mixed ensemble, shocking, no doubt, a lot of people in New York.
Yes.
Was there much reaction against it?
Interesting reaction in that the classical media, the critics were rather sniffy about it.
Sniffy about the music.
Sniffy about the music and the fact that the Barbarians were at the gate.
Ooh.
And
Now, hang on a minute. Is that the Jazz Barbarians?
The Jazz Barbarians, indeed.
Very
yes.
sniffy, in fact, about the conduct of Benny's young audience.
Which was nothing as bad as 3 weeks later they were in Boston, and it was anarchy. Nobody really remembers the Boston Symphony Hall, which followed on after the success of Carnegie Hall, but that was far, far worse. And Benny had to play the schoolmaster there and tell the audience to shut up. Which was something that Artie Shaw regularly did, because Artie was renowned for loathing his Bobby Sox audience. He was very, very sniffy and dismissive of them.
Well, if they paid the way to get in. But I mean, I'm afraid the classical audience can behave badly too. You think Stravinsky's Rite of Spring, there was a riot when that was done.
Yes, that's right. Yes, it was.
So
yes,
people
that's
don't
true.
like extreme change.
No, and I also discovered that when Beethoven's violin concerto was played, somebody was so irate they stood up and started playing a violin upside down in the audience.
That's an interesting
So
thing
anyway,
to do.
I'm sure nothing like that will happen
It's
on
a very
Sunday.
interesting premeditated heckle, isn't it?
It
Just to
is,
waste a bit
yes.
of valuable BBC time. But the whole backstory of that
Yeah.
warrants a documentary in itself.
Which fortunately
I think so. Okay, so I'll
we
take a
don't have
note.
time for.
I'll take it down. Upside down violins. We have it on our list, actually, but I think it's fairly far down.
We have
if
them
you
in the
don't mind.
concert orchestra, sir.
Yes, we do.
I must
They're
say-
called violas. No, they're not.
Sean, I'm sorry. I was just about to say that very exciting news. I just took a text during the piano solo of the last number and relieved to discover that the workmen have now finished at Cadogan Hall, putting in 45 extra seats. So there are now more than 900 seats at the Cadogan Hall. And
You are
if-
adding to the gaiety of nations.
We are.
If anybody would be interested in buying one of those 45, they will find if they go onto the website that they can't see them on there because the technology is
They
lagging
don't really
behind.
exist.
They will have to call the box office.
All right, I think your audience will be cunning enough to do that.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I'm glad they've done that. And just in case you think, when talking about the builders, the Cadogan Hall is a very firm building. Foundations very nicely into the earth in Sloane Square. It's been there for a very long
it will
time.
not fall down.
It will
during
not
the
fall down.
performance.
You'll be absolutely fine. Now, it's going to be 1938 Carnegie Hall to the letter, or are you going a little bit wild on Sunday?
No, we are doing the programme to the letter, with the one exception that, in fact, it was the big multiracial moment, was an ad-lib jam session involving members of Duke Ellington's band and members of Count Basie's band, along with members of Benny's band altogether. And because that is an improvised bit of some pretty iconoclastic musicians at the height of their powers, we decided not to recreate that because we'd just be standing there playing the tune, Honeysuckle Rose, for 17 minutes. And while there's a lot of value, I feel, in the art of recreating compositions for orchestra, it's only what our classical lads have been on doing for 400 years, there's a great point to seeing that performed. A jam session is something which is captured in the instant on a record.
Sure.
And we put the
You're
record on
allowed.
in the interval.
You're allowed.
Yes.
You're allowed to do that. You're allowed. We thought we were being very outre, because I was up in Salford yesterday. We were talking about the Halley and the BBC Philharmonic getting together for Strauss's Great Alpine Symphony, which you can hear live here on Radio 3 tomorrow night, of course.
Love that
so
piece.
it's fantastic, isn't it?
Fantastic.
As far as I know, there's not a jazz arrangement, but feel free to have listened tomorrow night and see. I'm sure you can unpick something. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. Bunny waits. He's looking a bit nervous in case I ask him for some Tchaikovsky, but it's fine. You're allowed to do whatever you like, but I think we're in an oriental mode to finish, aren't we?
Oh, yes.
It's, we're playing a tune from the 1939 Carnegie
Yes.
Hall concert.
Tisk.
Yes, we are, because later in the year we're doing 1939, the second Carnegie Hall concert. And I suppose we should play, shouldn't
I
we?
think you should. I think it's a Sheikh of Araby, isn't it?
Sheikh of Araby.
Sheikh of Araby. That's all right. You're allowed to move just a little bit. Thank you very much indeed. Pete Long and his good men.
Here we go.
You guys are good. Thank you very much indeed. There are only three of them. There'll be a full band on Sunday at Cadogan Hall in London. That's Pete Long and his Longmen performing the Benny Goodman Orchestra's famous 1938 Carnegie Hall concert on Sunday. Extra chairs have been put in. Do go along and enjoy it. Thank you guys very much indeed. That was 1939. I'm sorry for straying away from 38, but they'll be doing 1939 in June in the summer. Thank you.